Now there are certain more data types which you have to know, which are of fixed length nature, which we use on the day-to-day basis in the code. The first is the time and the date. So for that, if I say time date value, then the value of the date is type D, and here I don't have to use the length. I can just use the date value type D, and here date value I can equate it to a date, and the format here is of the year. First is that 2022, then the month, which is 10th month, and then the date here is now today is 16th, so that is the date. Now I can also have a comment here with the single double quotes, so that will be the starting of the comment. So here this is year, 4 characters are assigned for the year, 2 are for the month, and 2 are for the date. So that is the way to represent a date value, and I can just out.write or print that particular date in the console. Okay, so let me save this code, and here I have to close this particular statement. That's why we are getting an error. And here clear the console, activate, and run the code, and you can see that we got the proper date printed in the console. Now in the similar fashion, I can also have the time. So let me go to a new statement where I'm also going to give the time value, and the time data type here will be T, and the time value is present in the hour, minutes, and second. So if I give here 12 hours, 12 minutes, and 12 seconds, and this is in the 24 hours format, the time is shown, and I can just print that out in the console as well, the time value. Okay, save everything, activate, and run, and you can see both the date and time in the console. Now I can also, instead of assigning this default value, take the time and date from the system itself. So I can say, okay, date value equal to psi. Psi is the object which contains system variables. I can just search here time, and here you can see time LO. In the description you can see ABAP system field local time of current user. I can basically assign this value to date value, and basically it should be assigned to the time value because this is time. And similar fashion I can assign the date value, and I can say psi and date LO. So here you can see date LO, the local date for the current user. So that is what I will get in my date value, and save it. And here we are actually selecting the system date and putting it in our variable date value, which is of type date, and taking the system time and assigning it to the time value, which is of type T, and activate it. Okay, so let me clear the console and run the code, and you can see that this is the current date and the current time for my user. So that is how you can use the date and time data types in your code. Okay, and I want to also add a few small details here. For example, if I want to increment the time, for example, if I want to increase the time for 10 hours, for example, I need a time which is 10 hours after the current value of my time, and I need a date which is 10 days from my current date. So how to do that? So you can also do the normal operation. Let me first bring the date one to first and then the time one after that. So I can have the normal arithmetic operation done to it. Date value equal to date value plus 10. It will automatically increase the date with 10 days and show you the date there. And the time value also, the times are to be added, subtracted in seconds. So I will say time value equal to time value plus 10, and each hour have 60 minutes and each minutes have 60 seconds in it. So I have added the 10 multiplied by 60 into 60 will give us the number of seconds in 10 hours. So let me save this and activate and print. So what this does is, this first date, you can see this is 16th of the October, and if I add 10 days then we have 26th of October, and in the time also if I add 10 hours then it is 21:47. And in the similar fashion, if I try to add 30 in the date, just in case to check if it understands the way the time is calculated, and instead of 10 hours if I try to add 20 hours, then let me save, activate and run the code. So you can see that if I add 30 days to the current date, so the current date is 16th, then it basically says 15th of the November will be the date if I go and add 30 days, and it actually does give us the correct date. And if I try to add 20 hours to the time, then you can see that if I add 20 hours, then the time after 20 hours will be 7 o'clock 48 minutes and 23 seconds. Okay, so I hope that the date and time operation are clear. We got the date, we assigned certain default values, and we printed those in the console. Then we got the system date and time and we printed those in the console. And after that, we took the default value from the system and we did some operation to it, and then we printed the value in the console. Okay, so I hope that this is clear to you. And just to summarize what we did in the fixed length part, because we have come to the end of the fixed length part, we saw the first fixed length character, then we also saw the data keyword by which we can directly create our variable, and by just giving the variable name and some initial value to it. And we saw that the fixed length data type have the fixed length assigned as of the length of the initial value. Then we also saw the Unicode part, that in the 7.5 all the language code is stored as Unicode. Then we saw the numeric type of integer type. Then we saw the hexadecimal type, and then we saw also the date and time. So these are the main examples of fixed length kind data types. Now I hope that these are all clear. You can do the practice in your own system and see for yourself. And for any questions, you can use the UI5C and discussion forum to ask the question. Now, what are the individual bytes and bits for each character or for each number assigned in the memory? You will see that in a text we will add to this section, because we don't want to really go and make this course more of a course where you are dealing with lower level of language. We just want this course to be useful for new and existing developers. So we will add the details of how much the allocation in the bytes and bits happens to integer, to numeric, and also to character in the memory as a text part in the next section. Now in the next section we will see the floating points and decimal, how that are represented in ABAP code, and we will take that topic and go into details what are the different representation of it, and after that we will see the string part. Okay, so let's continue our discussion with the floating point in the next section then.